I have tried to start this video and actually continue with the recording for this video multiple times, and I just can't seem to spit out words in a way that satisfies me. But I'm gonna get this done. So, in the name of being consistent with YouTube, I want this video to be a response to somebody who asked me a question. On my second video, they asked what got me into trucking. I thought that warranted a video response because it touches on several aspects of my life. They talked about living, breathing, eating, sleeping in a semi. And that touches on the fact that trucking is a lifestyle in a lot of ways. And it's a lifestyle that, on one hand, it can be really challenging, sort of depressing. It's a strange sort of lifestyle, and yet it also has a charm, a sense of adventure and beauty to it. I enjoy it and struggle with it all at the same time. So, I'll try to briefly summarize what got me into trucking. I graduated from high school in 2009. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I've been a lifelong Christian, and like I probably mentioned in my first video, I still am a Christian, although I'm struggling and questioning, to say the least. Gracie, my cat, is right behind my phone. By the way, we're in Wisconsin. I don't have a pickup, or we don't have a pickup till tomorrow morning, so we've gotten some extra time today, and it's still pretty early in the evening, so we're enjoying the downtime. And there's not much going on here in this part of Wisconsin, at least it seems. It's pretty empty. There is a neighborhood over to my left, and I'm contemplating going on a walk. It's really cold, but I do like the winter, and I'd like to walk, so we'll see. Anyway, I mentioned my faith and my faith journey to point out the fact that the whole idea of calling in life, purpose in life, how I'm wired, what I'm supposed to do, what I'm meant by God to do, what I've been wired to do, those sorts of themes and issues have always been a big deal to me, and I've struggled my entire adult life with the fact that I, for the most part, haven't seemed to get very clear answers regarding any of those topics. I've gotten some, especially in the form of encouragement and insight from people. Circumstances and life in general have also taught me quite a bit, but the point is I've wanted a sort of divine clarity on those topics, and I haven't really gotten that, and so it led to a lot of floundering and changing directions for me. I went to public school, and I won't say that public school is all bad or that it has nothing positive to offer, but the collegiate mindset was drilled into us, to say the least. The whole idea of, well, if you go to college and you get the piece of paper, any piece of paper even, you'll be super employable, and it's essentially going to be your ticket to success and stability in adulthood. I fully believed that. I bought that. I had no reason to doubt it, and I wasn't asking myself the right questions at the time of graduating high school, or I mean even afterwards. There was a lot going on in my life that kind of prevented me from really fully knowing myself, and I think the idea of even knowing what you want to do for the rest of your life, or having this strong sense of clarity on who you are and what you want in life at the age of 19 or 20, it's, for some people it happens, but I think for many it's unrealistic and unattainable, and it poses a lot of problems. So anyway, I thought about becoming a pastor. I thought about the biblical studies route. I thought about ministry. I started college having chosen the major of social work. I wanted to do social work. I wanted to help people. I thought the cases could be interesting. I liked the idea of it. And then at some point I changed my major to, what was it? secondary education in English. Maybe secondary is not a term that was in there. I don't know why secondary is coming to mind. I wanted to teach high school English, so I focused on English and education. And that led me to the point of taking creative writing and literature classes. I had that focus when I was in community college. I liked the idea of speaking, teaching, and dealing with people once again. I liked the idea of talking to students, being in that sort of atmosphere, and I really liked the idea of becoming a professor, but at the time, I didn't like the idea of going ahead and getting a master's degree. I thought that was too much schooling. I really wanted to fast track into adulthood, into being able to make money, be independent. I wanted to be able to take care of myself so that I could position myself to live my life and get married. My Christian faith was something I really struggled with regard to the topic of marriage. I wanted a wife, I wanted female partnership, and in my mind, the only way to get that legitimately was through marriage. And so I wanted to get to the point of being able to take care of myself and somebody else as soon as possible. And it's ironic because I've been married for years now. I got married / got together with my wife pretty late in life compared to most people my age. People tend to partner a lot earlier than I did. And in a lot of ways, we're still struggling. I'm struggling professionally. We're struggling financially, to be frank. So it's ironic that I had this tunnel visioned focus on becoming independent, and yet here at 33, even in a career position, I'm still struggling. I love trucking, but even now, I'm not nearly as stable as I want to be. My family, it's sad to say, but we're not very stable financially or positionally at the moment, if positionally is a word. And I would have been horrified if back then, when I was in college or contemplating college, if I would have known how awkward my path would be, I would have struggled immensely. So I guess in some ways it's good that we can't really tell the future. Although, in many ways, I'd love to be able to. There were personal circumstances in my life when I was in college that led me to the point of taking a break from college. So I finished, I think it was 2 years at community college, and I finished with a focus on education and English. I took a break. That break ended up being almost 4 years long. And prior to getting back into college, because I did go back, I decided to change my major for a variety of reasons to paralegal studies. At the time in my life, I was reading a lot of thrillers, mysteries, detective novels. I also started to pay attention to the legal realm and the nature of court-related work. So I liked the idea of being a paralegal. And of course, I didn't want to go to law school at the time. I thought that it'd be too involved, too intense. I thought it would have too many hours. I didn't want to work as much as I thought attorneys tend to work. And again, I didn't want to go through that much schooling because I was still ultimately wanting to get to the point of being able to simply make a living doing something interesting, something I could tolerate, something that was stable enough. And I did get my bachelor's in paralegal studies. I graduated in 2017. And a whole series of things happened post-graduation that led me to this point. At the time of graduating, I was working as an editor. I was working at I don't even know what you call it, a marketing research company. They did mystery shops, and I edited the surveys that were submitted by the mystery shoppers. So that's what I was doing. And after I graduated from college, I struggled for, I think it was 4 months to even find a job. I applied to many a job and could not find one. I don't know if it was just the area that I lived in or what. I'm sure that my lack of experience came into it as well. I could not find a job for months, and it was discouraging, it was disheartening. I really struggled with that. And then I found a couple jobs in the legal field, or at least loosely related to the legal field, and I got let go from two of them, the first two that I got. I think that my learning style is a learning style in which I have to do things by hand. I have to work through a task mentally and physically by repetition. I have to kind of get muscle memory to really learn something. And it's one thing to know about the legal field, or to know generally about something in theory, but when it comes to the specifics of doing a job, I have to do the thing over and over again. And I still question myself and my capabilities. I still question my intelligence. But I think the realistic and generous to myself answer as to why I was let go from those jobs, it's the fact that my learning style did not jive with the training style or the expectations of that field, at least in regard to those two jobs. I have to learn by doing, so I made certain mistakes in repetition, and there was no room for that. There was very little leeway. And I found pretty quickly that the nature of that world, the competitiveness, the coldness, the lack of mentorship, it didn't appeal to me at all. I really struggled with it. I still wanted to work in the legal field, but I also struggled with the fact that it didn't seem like a world that was friendly to somebody who learns like I learn, and it seemed to be a kind of field that one couldn't just put down when they go home. And it makes sense, but I also started to become aware that I wasn't really wild about the idea of being involved in such an intense world on a day-to-day basis. I found the content interesting, not necessarily the content of what I was doing in those two jobs, but in general, with regard to the legal field. I found it interesting, but I started to question what I wanted, of course. And at the time, I was actually thinking about going to law school. I wanted to take it further. Law school and the idea of becoming an attorney actually started to appeal to me. I really was interested in criminal law, but I did a lot of research and found that there were several reasons why I might want to hesitate before getting into that field in general. Criminal law and practice broadly. So I was planning on law school, but questioning it all at the same time. So after the two legal field related jobs that didn't pan out, I found a job as a paralegal, or at least an assistant to a paralegal, but the pay was not good. It was not good, to say the least. And the reasoning for that was because I was essentially being trained and I didn't have experience, which theoretically kind of made sense, but at the same time I was struggling with the fact that here I was with a degree, and now there was another barrier. I thought that after I got the degree, things would be set up well enough for me, that I would be established enough so that I could make a decent living. I thought that the degree was meant to substitute for the fact that one can't just go out and get experience without some sort of foundation. So I thought that the degree would mitigate the lack of experience and get my foot in the door, but it really didn't. Or it did, but just it did in a way that was so non-beneficial to me that I questioned everything because of it. I was dating my now wife at the time. I started dating her, and I was working at FedEx. And so I had this notion of providing for a family in my mind. My wife had had 2 kids from a previous marriage. They're my kids now, my stepkids. And so once I got together with her, I realized that I needed to position myself and at least prepare to be able to get something going financially and with regard to my job. I needed to do it quickly. I didn't have years to prepare at this point. And on top of it, working at FedEx, I didn't necessarily like moving boxes around at FedEx, but I did like the task-oriented nature of the job, and I liked the fact that it was laid back. I liked the fact that I could just do a task at my work, or my place of work, and then go home. I liked the fact that it wasn't a stuffy environment. It wasn't this environment filled with unspoken issues and implications. I didn't feel like people were constantly judging me in the background at FedEx, like they probably would tend to in the legal field. The legal field has a lot to do with optics, and I found that I liked the nature of a laid-back job. So that led me to research my prospects, or the prospect of becoming an attorney, and the more and more I researched, I found out that that world is competitive, it's hard to get into, and I found that what I wanted to focus on, which was more the criminal end of things, I found that it didn't really pay that well, at least generally speaking. So, between not exactly feeling like I had years to spare in which I could go to law school, feeling like I needed to get something going, feeling like I wanted a more laid-back work environment, between all of these things happening in life and other things as well that I won't go into, I decided against law school. And at FedEx, thankfully, I stopped loading trailers. I was promoted to a switcher or a yard jockey position. So I learned to back trailers, and I was driving yard trucks, and I found that I really enjoyed it. I liked backing, and I will not say that I was great at it. I struggled the first 2 or 3 nights of training and genuinely thought I would not get the hang of it. I was so disheartened and so frustrated. For some reason, I just couldn't seem to understand the mechanics of backing a trailer and how it worked. It just didn't click with me. But then maybe on the 4th or 5th night, it clicked, and I was officially given the job. And the more I did the job, I think I did it for 2 or 2.5 years, the more I did it, the more I found that I liked it. I liked backing trailers. I liked driving bigger trucks, pulling trailers. It felt almost like a video game, and I've always liked driving in general. I would tend to go for drives just to pray, talk to myself, sightsee. The act of driving has always been sort of relaxing and therapeutic to me. And so driving at work and then backing trailers and handling this bigger equipment, it was just interesting to me. It was enjoyable. And then, of course, I started looking at all the semis that were in the yard, and I became fascinated with those, even down to the details of the interior. I would constantly try to peek in and see what the dashboards were like. The details of the trucks fascinated me, and I'm not somebody who's mechanically inclined. I really don't know much of anything about engines or mechanic related anything. I could hardly check my oil prior to all of this. And now, of course, as a truck driver, I do basic things in my pre-trips, like checking oil. I've inflated tires, that sort of thing. But my point is, I became fascinated with semis, and not because I'm somebody who really knows much about them. I thought they were cool. And of course, I was thinking about career paths. I was thinking about trucking because I liked backing trailers. I liked driving the trucks at work in the yard trucks. I had become sort of fascinated with semis and the fact that if they have sleepers, they're homes on wheels. I was taking a lot of naps in our Jeep at the time after work. I would get off of work, take a nap in the parking lot of the gym, and then go to the gym, and even kicking back and feeling the vibration of the vehicle, the hum, hearing the hum of the vehicle, it lulled me to sleep. I found the idea of even sleeping in a vehicle kind of relaxing. And of course, I knew that the path to trucking was not a long one. I knew that getting a CDL was not an incredibly lengthy process. So I applied to a refinery related job, and I had decided, well, I'm either going to do this if I get this, and if I don't get this, then I'm just going to go get my CDL. And I didn't get that job at the refinery, so I went ahead and got my CDL. That was a really chaotic process. It's supposed to take about a month, generally speaking, but it took me 5 months. And it took me 5 months because the school I went to, it was brand new and it really wasn't well established. They have locations all over the country, but this one in our area was new. And they only had a few trucks, but they'd bring in 12 to 15 students at a time. So all of us were trying to learn the mechanics of backing trailers and on and on and on. And it was a lot of time spent sharing the cab with other people, 4 or 5 other people. So getting to practice was not an easy thing, and I finished school itself after about a month or so, but I spent a lot longer after officially finishing school going to the yard every day after working nights at FedEx. I'd work during the night at FedEx and then go directly to the school. Also that I could practice the blindside back in case I would get it on the exam. The process was chaotic, and I was running off of about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. It was not an enjoyable time. But I finally got my CDL. And I've been trucking for a little over 2 years now. So my journey into trucking has been strange. I would have never considered trucking. I would have never even dreamt of trucking or thought of trucking if it weren't for my college experience and everything that happened after college, if it weren't for me floundering about and not being able to break into the field that I got a degree in. I would not have considered trucking if it wouldn't have been for the fact that I started backing trailers at FedEx. I probably wouldn't have gotten into trucking if I weren't pursuing family life. I was considering trades and apprenticeships, but the combination of wanting to get a career going as soon as possible, wanting to provide, working at FedEx, knowing that I like backing trailers, my interest in trucking and how that grew, all of those things together were what led me into it. So it wasn't just one thing, it was many things. And it's not as if other fields or other possibilities stopped appealing to me, but as I've found out in life, at a certain point, one just has to make decisions. And I've enjoyed this decision. I mean, it has a lot of struggles that come with it. I'm still trying to find a well-paying position. This job I'm going to will have more home time. I'll be home weekly. It's been pretty tough being out for weeks at a time the past year, though I've enjoyed it. And in many ways, I'm glad that I'll still be on the road. I think I'll enjoy the combination of being home weekly, aka more consistently, while also still being able to live my nomadic life on the road with Gracie. It'll be nice being home weekly. I'm still trying to find my positioning, but I've enjoyed it. And I'm to the point where I don't know if there's anything else I would pursue, at least in terms of a traditional job. I like the idea of so many things, but in terms of actually pursuing other paths, I don't see it for myself unless some sort of exceptional opportunity is given to me. Now, I would like to do entrepreneurship. I would like to podcast, create content. I'd like to monetize creativity. I'd like to create passive income. I'd like to do all sorts of things, but in terms of regular work, I like trucking. Even with its downsides, I genuinely enjoy it. Even times like this, downtime, where in one sense I'm stranded in my truck in Wisconsin, states away, just chilling. On the other hand, I'm having downtime with my cat and creating content. I can go and work out, I can take a nap, I can watch shows, I can take a walk. I enjoy it. There's a charming sense of adventure going to different places and seeing new things, and then the act of driving itself, I find it therapeutic. I genuinely enjoy it. So there are all sorts of things I'd like to do in addition to trucking, especially in terms of creating content or monetizing things through tech. But as far as regular work goes, I enjoy trucking, and I do plan on involving trucking in my arsenal for the long run. And to respond to the notion that I look like a video gamer, I have played video games, but not extensively. There are plenty of video games I would like to play, but I've never been a gamer. I had a Wii and a PlayStation and such when I was a kid, and then in my 20s when I lived with my parents. But after I moved out, I didn't take any video gaming system with me. My wife actually used to be really big into video games, and now it's just sort of something that I'd like to do. I just don't have a system with me, and I enjoy other things in my free time as well, so it's not something I necessarily feel compelled to do, but I'd also like to do it. I know that the video games I have played and the systems I have played, it's been fun for me, even though I tend to lose every game I play, and that annoys me. I'm really interested in the idea of games with storylines. I don't know. There are all sorts of games that appeal to me, from Skyrim to Black Ops to Mario Kart. I like what I've played. And there are a lot of games that I hear about that I'd like to venture into, but I just don't have a system right now, and there are plenty of other things I do on my free time that keep me satisfied. I like working out, I like reading, I love YouTube. I could listen to all sorts of content on YouTube endlessly. I like taking walks, I like getting outside. I do drum. I haven't practiced in eons, but I do drum. So I have a lot to keep me occupied, to keep myself occupied with. But I say all of that to say that I'm not really a video gamer by definition, because I think that term implies taking it seriously and doing it regularly. But I like to do video games. I'd like to get into it. So maybe I'm a potential gamer, especially if my wife and I ever get to the point of having a little bit more spending money and time. I'm sure we would play together. But I find it funny that the person who remarked on my video, and they say I look more like a gamer than a trucker, I have gotten comments from people that I don't really look like a trucker, so I find it kind of funny. Maybe I'm breaking the mold a little bit. Maybe I'm bringing my own unique flair or sense of being to the trucking world. That's what I'd like to think anyway. So yeah, long-winded response, but hey, it's, in my opinion, video worthy in the sense that I touched on many topics just in regard to that one question. So thank you for the comment / question, and I hope that this was interesting and not painful to listen to. And Gracie and I, we are signing out for now.